On March 20th, 2020, Peter Sciretta of Slashfilm revealed that Rosario Dawson has been cast as Star Wars Ahsoka Tano, bringing the beloved character from the animated realm to live action. The Padawan to Anakin Skywalker was in both Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. Peter also said that he's been chasing the scoop for over a month, making this casting something that happened before the production shutdowns occurred due to current events. In fact, production on Season 2 has already wrapped. Now's a perfect time to talk about her. Before we do though, I want to thank you whether it's your first time here or you're back for more for watching the channel. We upload regular content every week on G.I. Joe, Star Wars, superheroes, comic books, movies, you name it, all the cool stuff. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of that new content. Let's jump back to the video. Created by George Lucas and Dave Filoni and voiced by Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka really came into her own on the Clone Wars television series once people decided that they liked the character. It took some time to get used to her quips and brattiness and for fan reaction to align with scripting, but once this happened, with her double lightsabers, she quickly became a fan favorite. It's unclear when Ahsoka really does ultimately meet her fate. There's some ambiguity there, but Ahsoka was one of the voices that Rey heard at the end of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, indicating that she may have joined the likes of other Jedi who've become Force ghosts, although this is not an absolute, and Dave Filoni agrees. In an interview, he said, quote, "I remember in The Empire Strikes Back, Luke speaking out through the Force to Leia. Vader also does this at the end of Empire Strikes Back. There's no absoluteness that these people are dead. I mean, some of them we know are dead." End quote. In other words, her voice, alongside the likes of Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Yoda, Luminara, and others, doesn't predetermine her fate. But who really is Ahsoka Tano? In early drafts for Clone Wars, Ahsoka was actually called Ashla. In early drafts for Star Wars, Ashla represented the light, and Bogan represented the dark, something that the Bendu referred to in Rebels. It was an honorary name meant to acknowledge ancient Star Wars lore. One of Yoda's younglings from Attack of the Clones is actually named Ashla because of this. George Lucas then renamed her from Ashla to Ashoka, after an ancient Indian emperor who ruled on the Indian subcontinent in 268 BCE. Tony Gilroy, a Star Wars writer, commented on Twitter in 2018 that he changed her from Ashoka to Ahsoka to, quote, make her unique. He actually had Arwen listed as a name, but crossed that out in favor of Ahsoka. She was featured in her own novel called Star Wars Ahsoka, and actually used Ashla as a pseudonym therein. Speaking of pseudonyms, she used the codename Fulcrum on Star Wars Rebels, but we'll get to that. Ahsoka's from a species called Togruta, which came from the planet Shili. There was a colony of Togruta which lived on the planet Kiros, a planet located in the expansion region, which is where Ahsoka comes from. The Togruta have this colorful skin tone and these white markings and these large hollow horns that they call montrals on their head, which allow them to sense movement around them. Leku are the set of three sort of tails that come from their head. Both the Leku and the Montral grow as a Togruta ages. They get longer, they get bigger. Her appearance is actually inspired by a Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli wolf-fighting character named San, heroine of the film Princess Mononoke. In her early years, she killed a beast called an Akul, which earned her a ceremonial headdress similar to the one the Jedi Master Shakti wears. Ahsoka, at a very young age, was found by a Jedi Master named Plo Koon, who brought her to Coruscant to train as a Padawan. Plo wasn't able to take her on as an apprentice, so she went to Anakin to be trained under the direction of Yoda himself. She doesn't have hair, so she couldn't wear a traditional Padawan braid, so she actually wore a strand of Silka beads in lieu of that. Anakin and Ahsoka actually didn't like each other at first. She was headstrong, snarky, and really bratty, and she earned the nickname Snips by Annie. Ahsoka helped Anakin track down Jabba the Hutt's son named Rada the Hutt. She met up with him at the Battle of Christophsis on the planet Christophsis in the Outer Rim. Later, the two linked up with Obi-Wan Kenobi and battled Asajj Ventress. At one point, they also traveled to Mortis and met up with a father, a son, and a daughter. And this is the father who possessed the Dagger of Mortis, a mystical blade that allowed him to control his two Force-using progeny. The son, representing the dark side, lured Anakin to the altar of Mortis to retrieve the dagger, and the son took it and plunged it into Ahsoka, killing her. The daughter ended up giving her life to Ahsoka by transferring her life force into Ahsoka, something that was reflected in her final moments with her little owl, Morai, a Force-sensitive breed of birds called Convor. It's a fun fact, it's a species that's named after Dave Filoni's wife. The light brown and the green and the white on the bird match the color scheme of the Force-sensitive Mortis' daughter. And this happened just as the Clone Wars was ramping up. During the Clone Wars, the Togruta were enslaved by the Zagerians before being rescued. Jedi Knight Anakin was actually pulled away for the war, so he was unable to complete Ahsoka's training. She didn't become a Jedi Knight, and so he did not ascend to Jedi Master status. During Clone Wars, Ahsoka was framed for and accused of bombing a Jedi temple on Coruscant by her friend Barriss Offee. The council turned away from her, believing her to be guilty, and they ordered both Anakin and Plo Koon to find her, which made her feel betrayed by people she thought were friends. Anakin fought for her innocence, but they both lost faith in the Jedi Council as a result. It was this that turned Anakin further to the dark side, which led to his drastic personality change between Attack of the Clones and the third part of the first trilogy called Revenge of the Sith. She later gained control of the clone army from Rex and laid siege to Mandalore, which brought her face to face with Maul. Leaving the Jedi Order as she did enabled Ahsoka to avoid the Emperor's infamous Order 66, the order to strike down all the Jedi. Yoda actually had a vision of her dying at the temple, and it turns out that she and Rex faked their deaths to avoid the Purge. She went into hiding and worked as a mechanic on Thebesca, a planetary home of the Fardy clan. She worked as a freight courier for these Outer Rim smugglers, and running from Sixth Brother, she linked up with Bail Organa and ultimately the crew of the Ghost, joining up with Organa's rebels. The Emperor sent a new warrior to hunt her down, a fearsome inquisitor named Grand Inquisitor. She was also on Coruscant around this time, where she met up with a woman named Trace Martez, who becomes her friend. And I don't want to give too much away because it's new, so spoiler alert, but in Season 7 of Clone Wars, her sabers are blue, which denote bravery. After Clone Wars, in her self-titled novel, Ahsoka showed up on Star Wars Rebels, proving to be an important part of the rebellion. In Rebels, Ahsoka went by the name Fulcrum for a while, and while using this nom de guerre, she was giving the crew of the Ghost intel and supplies. Later, she was on Malachor in the Sith Temple and met Darth Vader, and during the fight, Vader's helmet was damaged, and she realized he was her old Jedi mentor, Anakin. Despite the temple crumbling around them, they stayed, and she was presumed dead. And it took another Jedi Padawan named Ezra Bridger to pull her out of the realm between worlds, a world between worlds, and saved her. Her little bird friend Morai helped Ezra pull her back from the final moments before Vader was to strike her down in the temple. In other words, she's still alive. When the Empire fell after the Battle of Endor, Ahsoka met up with a Mandalorian named Sabine Wren, who was on a planet called Lothal. After Sabine gave the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, the two set out along with Hera Syndulla to find Ezra Bridger, who went missing after his fight with Grand Admiral Thrawn during the war. It's this voyage that found her on the Outer Rim. Cara Dune and Din Djarin and the Mandalorian make the rounds. They might have found Ezra by the time Season 2 of The Mandalorian starts, so she could be just traversing this post-Empire world, sort of like Cara is, without a mission. Ahsoka's a powerful fighter enhanced by her Force sensitivity and the capabilities her Montrals provide her. As part of her training, she learned a style called Jarkai. She wields a traditional length lightsaber and another shorter one. She was able to take a blood-red dual-bladed saber from a Sith Inquisitor named Sixth Brother and purify the Kyber crystals, which are what power the lightsabers, making her own white-colored sabers. The white light makes up all the colors of the spectrum, a representation that she is neither light nor dark. She's all colors. She often wields her sabers with a reverse grip, a Form 5 variant of Xi'an. Because of this capability and her lack of official Jedi Knight status, Ahsoka is sometimes referred to as a gray Jedi, someone that finds balance in the light and the dark, somewhere in between, someone that represents all aspects of the Force, the balance, daughter, her history, and what's foretold to come all make her incredibly important to the Force, to Star Wars lore, and to the future of the franchise. And speaking of the future, it is possible that the gold-clad armorer seen in Season 1 of The Mandalorian is actually Ahsoka's friend, Sabine Wren, the female Mandalorian who was prominent in the animated canon side of the stories, alongside Ahsoka. Even someone from Clan Wren, like Ursa Wren under the armorer's armor, would provide a bridge to Ahsoka appearing in the Disney Plus show. We also have the Darksaber that Moff Gideon wielded. The Darksaber is a legendary weapon that was once in the possession of Sabine Wren herself. It gives the owner a claim as ruler of Mandalore. Does she have knowledge of the child species from her days in the Jedi Order? Does she call her friend Ahsoka in the fight against Gideon and the fight to reclaim the Darksaber and her claim as once again ruler of Mandalore? Do they take the Darksaber and return to Mandalore with the Mudhorde clan to reclaim the planet? That would be really awesome to see. For the first fiscal earnings call of 2020, Bob Iger, the CEO before Bob Chapek, spoke briefly about The Mandalorian. He said, quote, "The Mandalorian Season 2 coming in October, and then more coming from The Mandalorian thereafter, including the possibility of infusing it with more characters and the possibility of taking those characters in their own direction in terms of series, end quote. So in an effort for ongoing Star Wars content beyond the Skywalker saga and with theatrical releases on ice for a few years, it makes sense to have these types of characters show up on a premium streaming show, the anchor being The Mandalorian. With that said, what's after The Mandalorian? With their efforts to expand further into the Star Wars universe to make other characters multimedia tentpoles beyond Luke and Leia and the Skywalker family, will Ahsoka be one of those? Could Rosario Dawson's role in The Mandalorian Season 2 lead to an Ahsoka spin-off show that could possibly include both Harrison Dula and Ezra Bridger? If she gets a spin-off show, and if she is a tentpole character going forward, might she make a new foe in Dr. Aphra? Now that I would love to see. And that'll do it for this one, my friends. Go ahead and leave me your thoughts and comments down in the comment section below. We'll continue the conversation down there. Don't forget to subscribe because we upload videos just like this each and every week. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll be one of the first to know when they get posted. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.